sky each day at sunrise and darken the clouds when it's time to rain. That's some of the magic I have mastered. I'll show you the rest when you call my name. I wanna make the whole world laugh.
Hey everybody, and welcome to episode number 40 of Boutique Talk. My name is Jake Boston, otherwise known as Steelbook Obsessed on all your major social media platforms. And if you want to listen to all things physical media related, then you've come to the right place. Every episode, I have on a new guest to talk about their physical media journey, and tonight, my guest is a wealth of knowledge in the movie-loving community. Him and I went toe-to-toe on a movie battle, pitting Vinegar Syndrome versus Second Sight, and we both sparred back and forth. I could listen to this man talk physical media all day, so I'm very happy to have on Aaron Pynn from Cult of Cinema on the podcast. Aaron, how's it going?
Fantastic. Thank you Thanks for the kind words. I'm taken aback. You kicked my butt in that one, but it was.
I don't think so. I rewatched a little bit of that going in here, and Demon Wind versus Super Mario Brothers Steelbook. I'm like, that one was a tough one. I feel like we just kept on going back and forth, and like I know we snuck out a victory, but we went to extra innings. It was just a blast. That was like one of the best movie community live streams I've done in a very long time.
I really enjoyed that. It was like one of those things, you know, when you don't know you need something and then it happens and you realize, oh, I really needed that.
Correct.
That was that.
1,000% agree. And like all of us were just like, yeah, this is a really fun time. Like, you could just see like I had a blast doing this on everybody's face. It was a great time. But tonight, going in the opposite direction here, I don't know if you can have a great time watching Blood Harvest, but you can have a great time collecting for Vinegar Syndrome. And believe it or not, it's been 40 episodes of the podcast, and this is the first time that Vinegar Syndrome has popped up, which I find absolutely shocking.
I mean, it's obviously anybody that's seen me before knows me primarily because of Vinegar Syndrome. Mm-hmm. It became a thing, and I didn't try that. It was a complete accident. But yeah, and this movie here specifically hits home a bit. I've got some like some weird takes on this film.
Sure, I would love to hear it.
I just said, but Blood Harvest is one that when it came out, before it came out from Vinegar Syndrome, 88 Films announced it for their Slasher Classics collection, right. And I was at that point I hadn't gone to London, but one of my viewers was like, "Hey, you spoke about this movie on the channel before. Do you want it?" So they sent it to me, and like 2 days later, it was recalled because they didn't have the rights for it, and people couldn't figure out, okay, where's the rights going? Vinegar Syndrome. So I ended up with both copies of the of Blood Harvest.
You have the original slipcover. I have the newly released slipcover with the VSU, the Media Club slip.
I kind of like those stamp things. I want to get one of those, just have stamp actually.
Sure. I'm assuming you have like all the slipcovers you need for all the Vinegar Syndrome releases you've been collecting for that long.
Most. I mean, like for the ones that I really were was important to me. I think I missed a few like Candy Snatchers, a few like that I wanted to grab. But it was at the point I've got like when you think of like the old school stuff, like the first one, like The Undertaker and the Lenticulars, like Demon Wind, like you mentioned, and like Jack Frost and like Psycho Cop Returns, which is one of the hardest to get. I was in from the beginning there. Actually, what happened? Got time for a short story. I was in Ottawa, and I was going to a convention to meet like Robert Englund and a bunch of other people, and we spent the day like media shopping, and we went to a few different places, and we couldn't find anything. We found like one or two things. It was at that point where the shops are starting to kind of like you're not seeing as many of them. So we find this place, and it's upstairs. And it's all like cult release. It's all boutique label stuff.
Sure.
And I'm in my glory. It's only a small place. And I go in there and I pick up Night Train to Terror, which is a movie that I've seen a million times with really crappy versions of it on like those 25, 50 movie like sets. And my mind was blown. Like there's a company that's put out Night Train to Terror and took the love and care to remaster this movie. And I'm like, okay, what does this company do? If Night Train to Terror is there, what the hell else have they got? And I took it home and I started watching it. And I watched it like 3 times within that same week. And I said, I really like these weird off-kilter type of films. And because at the time boutique labels were starting to get more prevalent, I decided every year I'm gonna take the year, I'm gonna focus on collecting a certain type of thing and kind of beef up my collection on that.
Yeah.
So that year coming up was my WTF year. And that's when Vinegar Syndrome, I guess, just before they started to get a name. And a lot of their movies, especially initially, are really WTF, what the hell am I watching type of movies, like what we're about to talk about. And that's kind of how I got into Vinegar Syndrome.
What year was that? Do you remember?
Oh my God. So they started 2012, and that would have been early, probably their first or second year. When they started. I'm trying to think when they put that one out. I'm peeking.
Sure.
I'm seeing when it came out. Because Night Train to Terror was an early one. We're looking like probably like super early Vinegar Syndrome.
Because I'm a noob when it comes to Vinegar Syndrome. I really didn't start collecting for the boutique label until they hit their 10-year anniversary. And they had that glorious sale of 10 movies, $10, 10 days. And they just continued to roll out very, very cheap movies. And I loaded up. I probably bought 40 or 50 titles from them. Just because I knew they were never going to get that cheap again.
So it was number 17. So it was like 17. Super early on. But I think I'd had a couple before then, but I didn't realize they were Vinegar Syndrome. I didn't put it all together. But for me, it was this label that did stuff that no other label is doing. It was putting out some different types of films. Like Vinegar Syndrome is a company. They started in 2012. Joe Rubin is the head of Vinegar Syndrome. And they were a remaster company. Like first and foremost, they were really good when it came to remastering stuff. And that's what their focus was. So they started up this crowdfunding campaign. And they had a couple like kind of smaller films, like Kershaw Gordon Lewis's, softcore sexploitation films before you got into the to the gore stuff. And they did an adult film as well early on. So they were doing like these different styles of films that we weren't seeing get the love, but they were doing it at Criterion levels. And I think that's the thing, like people don't know what Vinegar Syndrome is. Imagine like this movie that you've seen in a 99-cent or $2 bin back in the Kmart days, if you're my age. And all of a sudden that's getting a Criterion style release. And that's what Vinegar Syndrome does for these releases. This, when I bought Blood Harvest, first was on DVD, and it was from Federal and Reyes Company, actually. I think it was Retro Media. And it was not the best quality release. And it was like night and day. Seeing it like this is, they put the level of like care into it, the remastering, when they go in. Like this is an earlier one, special feature wise. There's some, we'll get into that. There's some decent features, but I wouldn't say this is one of the more loaded ones.
Right.
But I'll mention some of the loaded ones as well, because there's some great stuff here. And there's been some changes over the years with Vinegar Syndrome, some very drastic changes.
I wanted more from the special features on this release specifically, because I feel like there's got to be some good backstory on the making of this movie. And the fact that there's just kind of nothing to dig into on this disc was a little bit of a bummer to find out, unfortunately.
But, yeah, because it's Bill Rebane, man.
Right. But I kind of want to figure out the evolution of how you started collecting physical media. I'm assuming you've been collecting for a very long time. So I kind of want to see what got you into collecting for whatever format that it was, and how your collection has just grown and grown. I see some of it behind you, but I'm assuming that it's just kind of all over the place in your place.
I have over 10,000 movies in my collection.
Nice.
But when I first started, I was very young. I'm 53. So, but when I started, it was CED days. It was pre-VHS. And for those of the younger in the audience, it's capacitive enhanced discs. So they were like plastic, and you'd put them into a thing and pull out the plastic part, and the disc would stay inside, and you'd watch the movie. But I started collecting with VHS. And I still, to this day, I love VHS. If I can get my hands on like good VHS, I will always grab, like especially horror. But the thing was, I was young, and I went to college, and I moved a lot. So I would start collecting, and I would get up like a fairly decent collection, nothing like I have now.
Mhm.
And then I'd have to move, and I'd have to sell everything that I had.
Oh no.
And this happened like more times than I care to admit.
Mhm.
But I I met my better half, and we were in St. John's, Newfoundland. Well, I was working, and I went to a CD warehouse, was a store that's no longer exists,
Mhm.
and I bought this set, this Lone Ranger set, and had the first few seasons of Lone Ranger. It had like cards and a book and all this kind of really cool stuff on it. And I thought, this is really cool. Like, I want to start collecting again. And I just gotten a job that paid pretty well, so I grabbed the set. And from then on, I started collecting. And when we moved to St. John's to Nova Scotia, where I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to have to sell things at this
Mhm.
point because it's a big move.
Right.
And my better half hint, she's like, no, you're not. She said, you've done this every time that you've moved somewhere. We're not doing that. So I took everything and went to Nova Scotia. And a few years later, we had the chance. We got gifted a home here in Morocco, and we were going to move again, which was our biggest move, obviously.
Mhm.
And my entire collection, over 10,000 films, came across on a boat, like,
Wow.
and they're all here. Some are here, some are at our second home at the farm.
Mhm.
And overall, it's been quite a journey. Like, for me, what really got me back into it was Shout Factory, because Shout Factory started to do Roger Corman Presents,
Mhm.
and there was this Roger Corman collection of films. Like, they had all these Summer Party Massacre films, and all the different, like, my better half was really into the aquatic horror, so all the
Mm.
piranha films and stuff like that, and in Beneath the Depth and all this. So we got in with that, and after that, I found Scream Factory show. They started up, and I was reading an issue of Horror Hound magazine. Opened it up. They had this article on Arrow Video, and
Mm.
this is when I realized, okay, I have to go reaching free because
Absolutely.
Arrow Video was like, so you got the second sight, right?
Yep.
And I had no idea that kind of love and care could go into these films. So I started, and the first thing I bought was this Russ Meyer box set, and because I thought, oh wow, I've never seen this, and now, unfortunately, went out of print and it doesn't exist anymore. I think there's
Mhm.
3 coming out from Severin. So it just went from there. I just kept collecting, and I started out as a collector, and I don't consider myself a collector per se now. I consider myself a curate, because I think when you start on anything, whether it's like movies or comics or video games, you collect, and when you collect, because you're not quite sure what your taste is yet, where
Right.
you're going to go with it. So
Mhm.
you're grabbing stuff, and then you're realizing, okay, I'm not watching this again. I'm not checking this out again. Why do I have like this? Why do I have 3 copies of this in my collection? I don't watch one of them. So then you start to say, okay, I want to grab things that are me, that like represent me. So now when I look at my films in my collection, I can say, okay, yeah, this relates to me. I have memories for this film, whether it's like memories from when I got the film, when I bought it, or when I saw it in theater. For me, a lot of the things that I watch now and a lot of movies that I get are movies that I'd seen in theater or I caught on VHS that I never thought would come out. Who Done It is a perfect example of that. Actually, that is a Vinegar Syndrome title.
Hmm. Well, very good. So the evolution, how many times do you think you've sold your collection from moves? Is it
Oh.
I would assume like 4 or 5 times, just from the amount of
I moved a
conversation
lot,
you had. Yeah.
so you're looking at probably around 10 times that I've
10.
restarted.
That would be maddening to me. I guess it's kind of a double-edged sword. It stinks that you spent all this time gathering pieces in the collection just to kind of piecemeal them out very quickly. But then it's nice to kind of start from scratch again and just kind of collect everything that you wanted, or maybe you collected some things that weren't of interest to you, and you finally were able to, like, okay, let's try this little pocket and see if I like this stuff more. I've never had to go through that. I've always moved. My collection has moved with me and has just grown and grown and grown. I've never heard of people moving and selling everything they have just to kind of start anew again.
Yeah, I had to do that a lot, and I was not always in the place that I am right now,
Mhm.
where it's that I had that luxury. But the neat thing about it is there's times when I lose something from before
Mhm.
that that I think I'm not going to get back. So there's this Anchor Bay set, this Mirror set, which they are not good films, but I just like this set, and I really was proud I had it in my collection. At the time, I was working at Zellers, which is a store in Canada that doesn't exist anymore. And it came in, and I grabbed it right away. I was like so excited, and I sold it on my move when I moved to Ottawa, and I was like, "Oh, I'm never going to find that again." And for years, I didn't find it. And 2 weeks before we moved to Morocco, there was an ad on Facebook Marketplace with these random movies, and right in the mix of those random movies is the Mirror collection. And you would have thought, I found like gold or some. It was just so incredible to get that like feeling of like, oh my God, I got this like piece of my collection back that was like missing.
Yeah. So that's something I haven't thought of before. You living in Morocco, finding secondhand movies via online, like a Facebook Marketplace or a Craigslist or what have you. Is that still pretty thriving where you are now, or is it kind of hard to find some good physical media finds?
Not at all. I mean, like physical media is pretty dead here in Morocco. Like every once in a while, I'll see like one or two things will pop up, like a film noir box set or something along that lines. Usually for me, I'll because I live close to Europe and it's extremely cheap. So I will fly over to Paris or I'll fly over to Spain, and I do a lot of my physical media shopping there. And of course, anytime I go to Canada, I'm going next month, then I'll pick up stuff there. And sometimes if I'm working with a company, because I review movies as well, I'll get review copies and I got to like go through those. And I'm coming home to Canada and I got to bring back my review stuff. And I'm like, okay, what can I actually buy? Because I have so much to take with me.
Yeah, what can you bring with you in the carry-on for sure?
Yeah.
That's
Columbia Classics Volume.
What's that?
Columbia Classics Volume 4 is.
Oh yes, absolutely yes. My fingers are crossed that because I have the opportunity to help spread the word on physical media as well. Companies are nice to send me some things. Fingers crossed, Columbia Classics Volume 4 is one of those as well, but I know there's not a lot of review copies out there, so we shall see. But I have 1 through 3, and they are great. I love those releases.
I'm so jealous. I missed the first 2.
Did you?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, sold out very, very quickly as well. But yeah, we're not talking Columbia Classics. We're talking Vinegar Syndrome here. I kind of want to deep dive a little bit more into that label. But before we talk about the ins and outs of Vinegar Syndrome, I have to play their theme song. Every time I hear it, I turn into a happy mood. I have a weird face that pops on every time I hear the song. So let's just play the little 10-second intro here. Some nice little 1970s New York grime. It's great. I absolutely love that little ditty every time it pops on.
It's from Wonder Woman. So if it's a Vinegar Syndrome title, actually, you put it up, which is very, very cool. Very kind of like Boom Chickawawa type of.
Yes, it is. Yes. And I haven't collected any of their sub label. Starts with an M. Their more adult line. What's that called? Mezzanine? Millicene. Yeah. Do you have any of their stuff?
I do, but basically what happened is I wanted to collect. I believe that all cinema like matters, so I wanted to have some of the adult stuff, but I wanted to have some of the stuff that was steeped in like kind of the story stuff, because there was a point like for those when adult cinema wasn't like it is now, where like you had actual actors, and they do 2 cuts of a film. They do like a softcore cut with the story, and then they do the stuff with the adult scenes in it. So I'd been going to get some, and I kept saying, I'll get it next time. I'll get it next time. So Vinegar Syndrome had their very first Valentine's Day sale, and there was a contest on Facebook, and I won a $50 gift certificate for the Valentine's Day sale, and it was only for those titles.
Sure.
So I picked up a bunch of the ones that I thought would be good, because I wanted to I have a Patreon. I wanted to do like kind of like to review some of the films, like to look at them from like just as a film rather than looking from the adult standpoint of it.
Yeah.
So I got some of the like the Taboo series, because the 4 were done in like there's like 20 or something, but only 4 of them were done in theater, and they fit together to where the fourth is a kind of completes a storyline. It comes full circle, and stuff like Pretty Peaches. I didn't grab any of the new stuff since it's renamed itself to Millicene because they only did that more recently, and that's basically because they were trying to get into they want to get into the into like more mainstream and have Vinegar Syndrome like maybe go to like a Walmart or something like that, and you can't do that if you've got it tied to like the adult part. So they had to like split those apart.
That'll be an insane time if I see a Vinegar Syndrome title in a Walmart store. I mean, we've had a couple TerrorVision titles that have popped up, and that seems like a surreal experience. If I ever see a Vinegar Syndrome title in the wild, doesn't even matter if I have it yet or not, I'm still going to pick it up just because I'm like, that is just something that I never thought I'd see.
That's same here, man. Like I went to Paris and I went to the store called Metaluna, and I go in there and they got like Vinegar Syndrome and Severin and TerrorVision and all this stuff. And I'm like, this is my mecca. This is the place I have to go.
And in the US, it is so rare to find boutique titles out in the wild. I mean, really the only mainstream retailer that carries anything is Walmart. Target's going away from it. Best Buy cut ties last year. It's really just Walmart, secondhand stores, and online. That's all we have at this point. Barnes & Noble has some things, but they're so overpriced. They're not even like in my mind when it comes to shopping retail unless they have one of their sales, the Criterion sales. They have some Arrow Video sales. I want to say right now they're doing a Kino Lorber 50% off sale too, and that really hasn't been talked about. So yeah, it just stinks. I started collecting mainly for boutique labels around like 2017-ish, like late 2016, early 2017. And I feel like that there was a lot that I missed, but I'm also glad I got in when I did, because now it's just like it's hard to find things physically in a retail space. And I'm a big person to go to the shelf, grab something, look at it, put it back. Shopping online is kind of like, it's a necessity, but I hate it at the same time. It's just not, it doesn't feel the same.
It doesn't. I mean, one thing, if you travel through Europe, there is a massive, especially like France, especially Paris, areas like that, they're massive with physical media. I was so surprised. Like I went to Paris for my birthday, and I'm going into Fnac, which is kind of like their HMV.
Yeah.
And there's like tons of people like shopping through the physical media section. There's this like couple, and they were like, must have been their like mid to late 60s or something like that. And they got a list of movies that they're picking up, and they're picking up for them. But they're at the time, like Last House on the Left had a big special edition in France, and they were like excited. Like they were talking about Last House on the Left,
right,
and like grabbing all this other stuff. But yeah, it was it's interesting to see, because for me right now, where I'm so far away from like physical media where it's at, I'm finding it interesting to just find out how other people collect as well in other places. And as I travel around, I get to see, okay, where's physical media at in this spot. I did not expect physical media to be gone in Morocco, because streaming is, what's the best way to put it? Streaming isn't something that can be done everywhere. Yeah. Even say, because internet, whatever, like places that you just can't do it. So I was actually surprised, but then again, I live in Marrakesh, which is the city. So I guess still I'm waiting for them to start up. If they don't start up a video store here soon, I'm gonna have to start one myself. That's just it.
I feel like you could just open up the doors to your house and have a really good store on your hands, man.
They're not touching my stuff.
If you did start up your own store, where would you get the inventory, especially if there's not a lot of stuff around you, just from when you're traveling, whereabouts, just kind of bringing it back piecemeal and opening something up?
Yeah. There's a few different places that I would go to. I mean, like when I was younger, during the comic book boom, the 90s, I almost started up a comic book shop. And I was going to actually have movies there. So I actually remember calling Full Moon at the time, and because they were putting it like cards, and I wanted to put like Full Moon cards and like kind of like movies into my comic shop.
Sure.
And one of the girls that acted in the movie is the one that answered the phone. And I was really surprised. I was like, okay. But the comic store didn't happen, so sadly I did not get to do that.
Yeah, that stinks. would love, like, that would be one of my dreams. Like, if money was no issue at all, to open up a store and just kind of have like-minded people come in, stop for things, have conversations, help them out, because physical media is so hard to find retail wise, and just have like a nice little safe haven. That's that would be the best. Absolutely. Especially in a place like Morocco, where those don't seem like they exist at all. That'd be kind of cool to have like a diamond in the rough store like that.
I get shocked whenever I find something. I was on Facebook like Marrakesh one day, and they had like the first volume for the film noir set that came out from Warner Brothers. And I'm like, seriously, that was kind of cool.
Very cool. Well, let's kind of swing back into Vinegar Syndrome here. Like I said, we did that battle. You are just a wealth of knowledge when it comes to this label, and I am still kind of a novice when it comes to it. I bought a lot of cheap stuff, and I'm slowly going through it. But for me, I have found that it's probably a 50-50 split of movies that I pop in, and all of them are blind buys for me. I really don't know much besides just like watching a trailer, reading the synopsis, all that type of stuff. I either pop them in and I'm really glad that I have them in the collection, or I think that they're just a giant pile of trash. And I'm just like, I'm never going to watch this again. I have to get rid of it. I don't have a lot of space on my shelves. So I know that you have kind of pulled a stack of movies that you like from Vinegar Syndrome. And I would love to get your 2 cents on some of like what the label has to offer and what you think are highlights from them.
All right. So first, I'm going to give you a very Vinegar Syndrome one, that early Vinegar Syndrome style that I'm pretty sure you think is super trash. So, but the cover is amazing, by the way. This is Nightmare Weekend.
Okay.
And have you seen this one?
I haven't, no.
Okay. So Dale Metcalf from Pet Sematary is in this film.
Okay.
It is weird. It is so weird. It's about this girl, and her friends go to her house for the weekend. She has a father that is an inventor. She has a computer that has a sentient puppet attached to it. There are silver balls that change and make people do things.
Okay.
There's a guy that is hiding his alcoholic drink in between 2 slices of bread as a sandwich. It is insane. And back in the day, this and Raw Force were exactly what you'd expect from Vinegar Syndrome. Like these titles that were so crazy, that were so out there, that were so weird, you could not find them anywhere else. And who else would pilot a movie like this and make it look so good? And it does look incredible. But that's actually the crazy one. But they did a lot of really cool titles. Psycho Cop Returns. This one I do recommend. It's Adam Rifkin, early Adam Rifkin work. So actually kind of cool there to see him. Psycho Cop was a movie that, I'll be honest with you, the first one is watchable and just watchable. But Psycho Cop Returns is more humorous, and it's fun. There's just this was one of the early slipcovers that they put out. It was just a kind of a fun, unique title. Adam, and it was one of the early times we saw them like work with like actual like bigger directors like Adam Rifkin Jr. So they would work with Rifkin again, but Psycho Cop has never come out from Vinegar Syndrome. It's one of the most wanted releases. Not one of the better films, but this one here, Psycho Cop Returns, definitely one that I will recommend.
In their most recent announcements, one of their big ones was Fear.com. And that movie came out when I was like in high school. So I remember that distinctly. And that movie is such a pile of trash.
It is. It's not Vinegar Syndrome, though. That's a partner label.
Oh, was that? Oh, was that? Oh, God, that's right.
But it is a bad movie. Like I had a video recently where I talked about the Vinegar Syndrome titles that were coming out in the partner label titles. I'm like, yeah, don't buy that one.
Yeah, but the artwork is so good. It's so deceiving. It makes it look like a very decent movie. It's like, I kind of want to get this just for the artwork alone, but please do
It's like Soul Survivor. Remember when Soul Survivor came out? Like, that was like, oh, look, it's got Elijah Dushku. It's going to be such a fantastic film. And it was so boring.
Yeah.
And you couldn't believe it because you had all these good actors.
Yeah.
Here's one you might like. It's a different film. It's infamous for a specific scene, but the film itself really intrigued me. And I love the packaging of this one. You'll love the slipcover in this, I think. This is Tough Guys Don't Dance.
I have that one. I have not seen it yet.
It's interesting, Miller. So Norman Mailer, primarily an author, directed a film, and he apparently got really pissed at Ron O'Neal at one point. So Ron O'Neal did a take in this movie that is considered one of the worst line readings of all time. And because he was Norman Mailer was kind of mad on him, he left it in the film. But the film overall, it's a noir-esque style film. I love this film. It's strange. It's unusual. I watched this one with my cousin. We sat down, and he's really picky when it comes to this stuff. It's got Lawrence Tierney and Wings Hauser in it. And both those guys, when they're on the screen, no matter what, they just capture. They steal every scene they're in.
Sure.
And Hauser's one of my favorites. So this is actually one of Hauser's better roles. A movie I never thought Vinegar Syndrome would put out. And I'm sure you have this.
Okay. I don't have that one.
Patty Hearst, a Paul Schrader film from Vinegar Syndrome.
Yeah.
That was a mind-blowing thing for me. I love this movie. And I'd seen it so many times on VHS. And I really thought Criterion would put this out. This is one that I thought was Criterion bound 100%. It was Paul Schrader. He comes to the Marrakesh Film Festival a lot. And he's done so many big films. And if you've never seen this is a great one. This is a really good one. I know it's different from a lot of the regular stuff.
Yeah.
The film
Another new release that shocked me was the Polanski film that came out, The Cellar, just recently. Yeah.
There's some different stuff. They've changed in what they do over the years.
And I would say one thing that I think makes Vinegar Syndrome stand out above your everyday boutique label is the amount of work and effort they put into their packaging. That Cellar one looks nice with the doors that open, and then it has the slipcover 4K popping out. That I feel like they are innovating in their packaging more than any other boutique label for sure.
Oh, they do. Look at the cinematograph stuff. Their VSUs with which I should have brought down actually. But they have some great stuff when it comes to that. I got Beastmaster was a really good one that they put out with the magnetic snap case.
Yeah, a blade in the dark coming out with the
that was cool
pieces. Very, very cool. Yeah. I want to see the movie so bad. I think we talked about this in the battle, but yeah.
We did. This is a fantastic film. Dennis Christopher had come off of making Breaking Away, which is, again, a favorite film of mine. And he plays this movie-obsessed guy that he just gets to this point, he's, domineered by a parent, and he gets to this point where he just can't take it anymore. And he snaps, and he starts to dress up like characters from films. And he doesn't initially go out to kill someone, but an accident happens and things spiral from there. And it's not a slasher. People go into this sometimes thinking it's a slasher film. It's a psychological thriller. And it's brilliantly done because Dennis Christopher is one of those, those character actors, those guys that really kind of studies what he's going to do. There's a brilliant interview on here with Dennis Christopher as well. And he kills it. Everybody, early movie for Mickey Rourke too. Mickey Rourke's got a small part in this. But really good film. If you ever get a chance to pick this one up, really recommend it. I have both slipcovers for this one here. Which was,
that's the one that they put out through their media club too, right? They put out a separate slipcover that way. Yeah,
because it was one of the ones that people wanted a lot.
Yeah.
It's a downbeat one, but it's a really good film, and it is The Candy Snatchers.
I do have this one.
This one is it's a good watch. I'm not going to say it's an easy watch because it's a movie where nobody is likable, but the film is absolutely fascinating.
Sure. Okay.
And you should be oh, these people are too horrible to keep watching.
Yeah.
But no, these people are so horrible, I got to keep watching. And there's some twists, and it goes in a way that you're hoping it won't go, but they take some chances. Decent actors in this one, a lot of good special features, and one of the ones that I truly adore.
Nice.
I'll put up Trip with the Teacher. It's directed by Earl Barton, who was a film fan. He only directed this film. This is his only film. So he's like Charles Lawton that way. He's only got one movie. And this is a really cool one. What's really neat about this is the actor that plays the bad guy in this movie does a fantastic job, but he wouldn't be famous for his acting. He became famous years later because it was Zelman King. And Zelman King would go on to do things like the Red Shoe Diaries.
Oh, gotcha.
And, you know, he was the creative mind behind that. And a lot of this kind of like, he harkened in this like era of like this kind of like this softcore erotica series that seemed to be like as much like for like the female audience as was for the male. Sure. Was different. But he was an actor first, and he's really good in this. It's a excellent film, and he kills it. It just made me kind of sad that he didn't do more when it came to the acting part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I did have to put in a Canadian one, and Sudden Fury. And if you don't have this one, then you got to have this one.
Okay.
This is a nice. It's a Hitchcockian thriller.
Love that.
Basically, you got a guy that he's just driving down the road. There's a couple, and they're having an argument, and the wife is basically said to the husband, "I'm done. I'm fed up. You're just using me for my money." He sees something. He gets accused of something, and it's a man on the run story, and it just goes from there. It's really, really good, and you're kind of like, it keeps you on your feet. Kind of like, okay, where's this going to go? Where's this going to go? How's this going to end? Like, how's he going to get himself out of this? Is he going to get himself out of this? But if you like Hitchcockian thrillers, if you like that style stuff, that's what Sudden Fury is. And it's very much like an excellent film. Little lost piece of Canadian.
Sorry, while you're talking, I am adding stuff to the list over here. So I just keep on like looking over at my phone, typing stuff in. This one is like at the top of my list now.
It's a really good one. Kind of comical. One of the guys that acted in this became a voice actor for cartoons. Okay. So he worked on Inspector Gadget, actually. So I think he was the chief. So there you go. Or was he Dr. Claus? One of the two. Incubus. I think everybody that gets Vinegar Syndrome, this is one of the titles I think everybody gets.
Yeah.
It's John Cassavetes. And it's based on the novel, but if you read the novel, there's drastic changes, especially with the ending. But Cassavetes, when he started to do this film, he didn't like the script. So he literally rewrote all his dialogue, and he rewrote dialogue for other people in the film as well. And you can tell. So you get this horror film that should be just kind of a low-rent horror film that suddenly has this Cassavetes-esque dialogue with it.
Yeah, let him run. If you have Cassavetes, let him do his thing, man.
It is fantastic. And the thing is, there's some really, really cool like camera shots in this one. I love cinematography, and this one has some really fantastic ones. You've watched this, right?
I haven't seen it yet. No, that's one of the ones I haven't seen.
Wonderful shot, like kind of an under the door shot that is really, really well done.
Okay.
Great shot at the beginning too, which makes it seem like it's going to be like a slasher film, but it switches up into what it is. A Woman's Torment, Roberta Findlay. Roberta Findlay is a name that's well known when it comes to Vinegar Syndrome. She, along with her husband, actually would make films both of exploitation films that were both like the R-rated and X-rated ones. So this here is actually an X-rated title, but it also, like a lot of those titles, had an R-rated cut as well. She prefers the R-rated cut of the film. If you like Repulsion, if Repulsion was a movie that fascinated you, that's what this is. This is Roberta Findlay's Repulsion. And yeah, what's really fascinating about this, and something that's going to actually kind of play into what we're going to talk about with Blood Harvest, is the actress on this movie. She's just so intriguing and so unique that you're kind of fascinated by her. But here's the thing. They got shooting this film, and they were so far in when she was on the beach talking to one of the crew, and she said, "Hey, let's go." So she left, and with the crew, and she never acted again. She just took off. And Roberta Findlay actually had to like put on a wig for a couple scenes for back.
Oh, geez.
But it was, it's fascinating. If you don't want to watch the X-rated cut of it, that's okay, because there's an R-rated cut as well. But it's just a wonderful kind of like psychological look into this spiral into madness, and just how far it goes. And I thought I can't do this without showing the one that changed Vinegar Syndrome for life.
Okay.
Not my favorite title, but it would be when Vinegar Syndrome changed from being the company that put out a lot of crazy stuff to Rad.
Sure. Trying to get more popular titles.
So Rad was a big risk for Vinegar Syndrome. It was a more mainstream title. It was a title that for years it was really hard to get. Like it literally had a cult following. Like there's a Facebook page of people that are obsessed with this film.
Right.
And when Rad came out, it sold out almost immediately. This here version was impossible to get. It was kind of comical because I think 2 months later, like I worked with Mill Creek, and Mill Creek sent me like a steelbook.
Steelbook,
right? Rad.
Yeah, it looked great. That's one.
But it's a fun film. It's a very 80s film. I'm not like a big BMX. I was a skateboarder. I wasn't a BMX guy. So there's some scenes in this, like especially near the end, where they're doing just like these BMX tricks. Where I'm not gonna lie, I just thought it was hilarious. I just like this caught me as funny, and me and my cousin were watching it, and it's the BMX is like bouncing up and down, I guess, and we just cracked up like about 5 minutes where we almost couldn't breathe. But that being said, it changed everything for Vinegar Syndrome. That's when you got things like Showgirls come out. You got Death Wish 2. You got all these like more mainstream films for people that aren't kind of like into the weirder stuff. Like I am.
Speaking of the retail space, I feel like those are the titles that could see the light of day in a Walmart. Would be like the Showgirls, the Cloak and Dagger, that type of movie. I feel like those would ring out to just a general audience who might not collect physical media, but they'll go like, hey, that looks cool. I might want to grab this and take it home. Fly off.
Which makes me wonder if they'll ever do like steelbooks, because Walmart has gotten very big into like pushing the steelbooks, because they find that casual people that won't always buy physical media will buy steelbooks.
Yep. And there's always a nice little section in there, and I would love to see Vinegar Syndrome's take on what a steelbook would be. I don't see them going down that road because they have such a following with the nice thick slips that I think they have enough success in that arena as is, but I would love to see what they would do with a steelbook, man.
They do something different with it, that's for sure. They'd have to deconstruct it somehow.
Yeah, no, I 1,000% agree. But one thing that I love about Vinegar Syndrome that they have just kind of perfected, I feel like out of all the boutique labels, they have like video gamified collecting on their website. They do points where you can get some free stuff or some like money off of your next order, and they always have these sales that make you go back to their website just to see what is either new on sale every month, what releases come out from not only them but their partnered OCN Direct with a whole bunch of other different labels kind of mashed in there. We were talking about fear.com. I got mixed up on which one was which. They're just so collectible, and they make it an event every month to see what releases come out. For the month of October, they're having a new title every day, 50% off. So it gives you a reason to come back. It gives you a reason to be like, hey, is this movie going to be on sale? If it's not, they also have like a counter of how many copies of a movie are left. So it makes you be like, oh God, I want to get the slipcover. There's only a couple hundred left. I need to get it. I don't want to miss out on this. I feel like that's the main reason why I love collecting for Vinegar Syndrome, because they just make it so damn addicting to do it.
It's event collecting. It's like they're very smart when it comes to the FOMO of everything. With that, having that counter there, letting people know, putting out like constant like emails, but not like overdoing it with the emails, like 1 or 2 a month type of thing.
Right.
And you just see so many and they started the subscription service overall. Basically, Vinegar Syndrome does a thing where now it's in January, where you can actually subscribe and get all Vinegar Synrome's titles sent to you, and get 50% off coupon for all of their partner labels and all their sub-label titles. And you can do it if you don't want to do like the full year. Then around half year, they give you the chance to do it for a half year to give it a shot. So if you're really into it and you want to try okay, I want to get the next 6 months or 12 months of Vinegar Syndrome, you can actually do that. And it's gotten pricier, obviously. Yeah. But I actually did that once. I did the 6 month subscription. And unfortunately, I did it when Cardona Collection came out, which is one of the worst things Vinegar Syndrome ever put out. And I recommend nobody pick that up.
And they put out a volume 2 of it. Just I guess it must have sold okay. Yeah.
It took a while.
Right. Sure.
The second one is better than the first.
Okay. that the subscription thing is interesting, and I know that Shout Factory is now kind of testing the waters on some sort of club. We don't know a lot. It just kind of got announced last week. We'll
The
see what
physical media
happens
club.
there. Yeah. But I've never been a fan of the subscription service because I don't want to just collect everything that comes out in a year. I want to have the choice, and especially with Vinegar Syndrome, they have sales all the time. So I feel like if you're part of the subscription and you wait 9 months, some of the releases that you got in that subscription might be cheaper to just your average consumer. And that would not make me happy if I paid full price for that sucker.
That has been something that I hear a lot. I
Mhm.
cover Vinegar Syndrome a lot on my channel,
Yeah.
and people that like subscribe sometimes get peeved with all the sales. People that aren't subscribed, like me, are oh, this is fantastic.
Mhm.
I'll take as many sales as you can give me.
Correct.
But subscribers are like, oh God, I paid full, or half price, whatever it is for this title, and now it's cheaper than when I bought it.
Yeah.
And sometimes it did, like you mentioned, the 10 for 10 sale. Like you're buying movies in at $10. That's cheaper than any
Correct.
subscription price.
Yep. That's why I bought in bulk. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it was utterly fantastic. I loved it. And they said they weren't going to do it again because it made some subscribers mad, but they've gotten close to the $10 price.
It's like
range.
$13 now. You see that happen quite a bit on their sales. Like $13 still isn't that bad for a movie.
Yeah, no, my God, especially when you see some of the releases that are out there. I mean, Blood Harvest, not the most on it, but it's still it's a gorgeous looking one.
Mm-hmm.
And they do have, like, for those like really quality, kind of like a harder slipcover than you normally are used to seeing.
Yes.
It was really different because slipcovers were known for being kind of flimsy, and often it was just the same artwork on the inside and the outside. But with Vinegar Syndrome, they had like alternate artwork. Their slipcovers were sturdier than any other slipcover that was out there. They had like glossy aspects to it. One of my favorites is oh, you got it there, My Chauffeur. It's got a wonderful little like 80s film with Deborah Shelton, and so it has like these lips, and they're kind of done glossy, and it's just a gorgeous slipcover. I love the way that it's done.
I love their slips, and that's one of the main reasons why I like collecting for them so much, is just because they pop and they're such high quality. And like I said, I think I own like 4 or 5 Vinegar Syndrome movies without the slips, and I'm really just hoping every month I look in their media club just to see, hey, did they reprint any of these that I can grab and put in my collection? Incubus is one of them that I don't have a slipcover for, and it's just bugging me because, especially with Vinegar Syndrome, you want to have like everything looking nice on the shelf like this with the slip, and just not having it there just feels wrong for some reason. Any other one like Scream Factory, I'm okay. Arrow Video, if they don't have a slip, I'm fine. It's just, Vinegar Syndrome is the one that I'm just like, I need to have all of these in slips because it just feels wrong without them.
They've made this slip kind of part of their personality. And as they go through, like look at their VSAs, for instance, at Vinegar Syndrome Archives. They do that kind of that bottom loading with these like massive posters. And I love collecting those. I'll be, though that being said, I stopped collecting those a while back because I don't think the quality of the films that they were putting out for a bit were as good as the earlier stuff.
Sure.
Like there was 20 seemed like 20 Giulio Meri films, which I should be promoting because like he's Canadian martial artist, but still they're not good, dude. They're just not good films.
I don't have a lot of those titles, but the ones that I do, they were numbered on the very top of them, like the limited edition numbers, which is kind of a nice touch. Anytime you can add that to a release, I'm always a sucker for that too.
They were hand numbered until just recently they started putting a sticker on there, and a lot of people were very upset about that.
Yeah, because I think Boggy Creek 2, right? That was one of those that had the bottom loader. Yeah, and
I missed that one actually. I was so bummed out because I like that film. It's a crazy film. I like it.
God, I want to say that was part of one of their recent sales a few months ago too. That's when I picked it up.
It was.
Yeah.
It's one of those like they're out of print sales where kind of stuff that was in print came back again.
Yep. What are your thoughts on the OCN Direct side of things for Vinegar Syndrome before we kind of leave them and start talking about the movie? Because I find myself liking to collect for some of those sub labels more than I do for the actual Vinegar Syndrome label itself.
For a while, I felt like it hurt Vinegar Syndrome. So before OCN came around, Vinegar Syndrome just had this thing on their site called like picks so people that from Vinegar Syndrome would like pick titles that they liked from other labels. They get them out. I used to get a lot of Blue Underground from them. But they said, okay, we're getting rid of all our pick stuff. So we're cleaning out the warehouse, and all these movies get like super cheap. So I think I picked up like Zombie and House by the Cemetery. And the next month they started the partner labels. Now the killer part about doing the partner labels and doing so many is this. You can have times when the partner label titles will outshine the titles that Vinegar Syndrome are doing. And when Fun City Editions was one of the partner labels, I consider Fun City Editions one of those that should be on everybody's radar.
Sure.
Because the stuff that they put out is just phenomenal.
Agreed.
And every release that they put out was just upped what Vinegar Syndrome was putting out. So the perfect example of that is Vinegar Syndrome put out the Televised Terror box set, which I really enjoy because I love TV horror films. And these were like TV suspense thrillers, but at the same time, Fun City Editions put out their own TV like movie box set, and theirs was just so much better, just miles above. The features, the look, the presentation, the style was just so much better than what Vinegar Syndrome did. And it was, you're like, oh, I kind of feel bad for Vinegar Syndrome. And there was like full months where I'd go, I wouldn't be interested in any Vinegar Syndrome titles, but I'd be interested in the partner label titles.
Agreed.
So there's that balance. And we've seen like titles, like companies come and go. Like right now, I feel like companies go to Vinegar Syndrome's like OCN portion of it, almost like a proof of concept to see if they're going to go on their own. TerrorVision went out on their own. Culture Shock, they went out on their own.
As well. Did recently,
and it's different to see like what titles. I'm really surprised by some of the titles that come in there. Umbrella surprised me.
Yeah,
because
and Shudder, both of them. They're like, I feel like you're too big to play in this playground. Like, I don't understand why they kind of jumped on board.
And Umbrella, like, if you're buying Umbrella titles, and I'm sure you're buying from Umbrella because you're getting those massive sets, right?
Yep.
Like you can buy the massive set of Super Mario Brothers, or you could buy later on a Vinegar Syndrome one with the slipcover. You're going to get the massive set with the books because it's what they do best. I used to work with Umbrella. Like I did reviews for Umbrella right before they started doing this set stuff. That's
sure.
Sadly. So I didn't get any of those. But they put out so much great stuff. And I'm a massive fan. I don't get to buy much of their stuff now because it's so far away to get. It's like shipping's insane.
Sure, I can see that.
But I would love if they're going to do Umbrella, if Umbrella was like, okay, let's knock one or two of these massive sets over to OCN and sell it there because it would be easy for me to get that. I would buy the heck out of that.
And my thinking of why Umbrella is partnering with OCN is just to kind of spread the word on their own label. Like they can kind of, because so far the streams haven't crossed on what titles are being released from OCN than they are on their big main Umbrella big box sets. Like the movies that they've kind of put out have been part of their like the Ozploitation Classics or the Beyond. I can't remember what that label was.
Beyond Genres.
Black box or the black slipcover Beyond something.
Beyond Genres.
Beyond Genres. That's what it is. Yes. And I don't know how long they're going to be on board with them, but I really think it's just to kind of get collectors' attention to look at Umbrella's website to be like, oh, I can get some really good stuff over here.
Yeah.
And I think this year with Umbrella, I feel like this is a big year for them with the Super Mario Brothers box set. Like that was the big one to where like collectors that never really talked Umbrella in my neck of the woods were finally bringing them up. And they've had a hell of a 2024 this year. I feel like they have not hit this hard as frequently as they have with this in 2024. It's been great.
It's been amazing. I was actually surprised that when like Showgirls came out from Vinegar Syndrome, because I had the Umbrella version of Showgirls.
Yeah.
And it's just a Blu-ray, but the features are better on the Umbrella version.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually a full documentary called You Don't Know Me, which is really good, really fascinating. That I was really surprised that they couldn't get over for the Vinegar Syndrome release.
I love the video essays that Umbrella does on their releases. Like everything comes in a book, and that's great. But I would rather go into the special features on the disc once I'm done and just like listen to a video essay with all of the movies, like scenes from a movie kind of mined in there rather than reading it myself after I'm done. I'm a big visual guy, and I'd like to hear some people talk to me sometimes and just kind of get it fed to me that way. And I feel like Umbrella, more than any other boutique label, does a great job at what they put into their special features and just make them different. And even if you do get a book, it's not mostly on the movie. It's like there was one, Sky Pirates, that had the book that was just called Indiana Clones, that just had a whole bunch of that type of sub genre. That was a great read, because I'm like, okay, this has my attention. It's something different. I will read this book, because more often than not, you just get like behind the scenes tidbits on that. And for a lot of the titles that get books, I'm not really interested in that. I'd rather just watch it. But it's cool when they deep dive into what they actually package in their box sets.
It's true. Like, if you gotta have a book, it's gotta be something that I want to read. It's not gonna be something that's going on my shelf, and I'm not gonna look at it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're getting some of that now. I think we're getting to a point where some things get overproduced. Where like, oh, it's wonderful to have all of this, but some people are starting to like choose standard over some limited, just because it happened with Hitcher, which is wonderfully put together, one from Second Sight. But I had a few friends that were like, as nice as the big set looks, I'm going to get the standard because I got like a bunch of stuff coming out that month.
That's what I always do with Second Sight. I never need, because I mean, their books are great. Their box sets look gorgeous, but you have like a script, and I'm never going to read the script of a movie ever. It's nice that it's in there for the people who love it, but I don't need that. And then the books, it's nice to also have a hardcover book. But what I love about Second Sight is the special features that they put on their discs. The restoration, like their 4K transfers always look phenomenal, and their special features are usually pretty damn well done. And those are the two things that I like about that company. Everything else is just kind of nice looking filler, to put it nicely, I guess. I'm in it for what's on the disc, and I'm okay with just having the standard on a lot of Second Sight releases.
That's one thing I can say about Vinegar Syndrome as a company, is that their special features are wonderfully produced, and they get like some really good people in to do stuff, to do their features. And I've known a few people that have worked on some of their stuff.
Yeah. And
the work that they put into it, you would not believe. Like they like months ahead of time. There was a few when I just had to kind of keep my mouth quiet because I knew it was coming up, because I knew some people that were working on them. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be an interesting title. People are going to be excited to check these out. And just they had some incredible features. Spookies had some wonderful features on it. That's one that I think everybody goes and grabs now, just because it's got those 2 documentaries. And to watch that more than Spookies, but you will rewatch those documentaries.
It's nice. I always love getting a bonus movie with my movie when it's just hidden in the special features. It's a nice treat, a nice cherry on top of the release for sure. One thing that I've noticed about Vinegar Syndrome is that I'm a big subtitles guy. I love watching movies with subtitles. Ever since I had kids, like I'm just used to having them on now. And it's rare to get a Vinegar Syndrome title that has subtitles. I don't know why that is, but it always baffles me. Like out of all the main boutique labels, they just don't do that.
I think they're pretty good when it comes to the Jolly ones that you usually get subtitles.
Sure, yeah, the ones in a different language make sense, but I mean, I watch subtitles on everything if they're available, and more often than not,
sad when you don't.
Yeah,
because I have some friends that are deaf, and they, they need subtitles, to watch the movies at all. So I always get disappointed when I see like when subtitles aren't there. And nowadays I get disappointed when subtitles in other languages aren't there, because I want to be able to like teach film here in Morocco, and like if I'm showing a film class, showing class of film, they may not speak English, but I know that like French is a primary language here. Right. So, for instance, totally off topic in the company though, Indicator, wonderful film, and coming from the UK. I buy a ton of their stuff. Got a lot of their releases. Horrible when it comes to like any other language being having subtitles. So I wanted to do a class on Ray Harryhausen. Luckily, I had bought previously a Sony release of Harryhausen like films, and those had like around 5 or 6 different like language subtitles options there, which was amazing.
Sure. Yeah, no, I feel like price wise, it doesn't make sense not to have them in there because it's a very cheap thing to kind of put into your release, and I just don't. It baffles me why they don't put that in there. It's always bugged me, especially with Blood Harvest. Anytime I always like to do with the hearing impaired version because it kind of puts in parentheses what's going on, and sometimes what is in subtitles is not caught on screen, so it just kind of gives like an extra elevated sense in what you're watching that way as well. Yeah, I just wish it was on their releases. Just a little gripe that I have with Vinegar Syndrome since we're talking about the label.
It's a good gripe though.
Yeah. But we're about an hour in. I think it's time that we get to the main feature here, Blood Harvest. And I usually like to play a trailer for the movie. There's not a lot of trailers for this movie, and it shows a lot of things that I probably can't show on YouTube. So I have a little clip that I will play. It's like a 20-second clip just to kind of set the mood for the film. It's kind of hard to set the mood for this film, but I feel like this trailer just kind of encapsulates what Tiny Tim's character is in this movie. So I will play that, and then we'll start talking.
At night, when the mask is off, I look at myself. I may make the world think I'm happy, but I can't hide the truth from myself. Whatever happens, I must go on acting. Be a Pagliaccio love.
When this part happened in the movie, I'm like, that voice sounds very familiar. I didn't know anything about this movie popping in. Absolutely nothing. So first off, pop the disc in, you get the Vinegar Syndrome intro card, and then the main menu of this movie, dear God, it has the marvelous Melvin song, and it also just has the title card of a throat getting slit, hung like a pig. It's intense, and I was just like, what the hell am I getting into with this movie? It catches your attention, unlike a lot of main menus nowadays. It was like, okay, I'm ready for this movie now. I didn't know what to think, and now you have me on board.
It's a fascinating film.
Yeah, it sure is, man, to say the least.
It was directed by Bill Urbane, from Wisconsin.
Okay.
And he had seen Tiny Tim performing and wanted to do a film with him.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he's interesting. He's an interesting character. There's so much weirdness behind this film. Did you want me to give a description, or did you want to give a description of the film? Or
first, would you want to go into a little bit of detail why, out of everything that Vinegar Syndrome has to offer, why you kind of wanted to deep dive into Blood Harvest?
I was one of the people that was pretty much campaigning for this to come out from Vinegar Syndrome way before it came out. This one and There's Nothing Going On Here were two that were one big ones for me, like the Rolf Knitzky film. Yeah. But so Blood Harvest, one of the things about Blood Harvest is we have this backdrop of this farming area where they rely on farming, and all of a sudden there's a financial crisis and people are having their farms taken away. I am from Newfoundland. That's where my accent probably gives that away.
Okay.
And in 1992, we had the fishing moratorium happen in Newfoundland. So where basically all the cod fishing nobody could do it anymore. So you had, like, in a span of just in a few days, people went from having like all this money and they had their job and their career and their life ahead of them, to having like over 400 communities affected, over 37,000 people immediately lost their jobs. And oddly enough, when I saw the beginning of this film right here, and I'm hearing about like these farms that just are no more, that hit me. I'm like, oh, I can kind of relate to that. Like, I knew people that had that type of thing. So I could picture somebody, because we see like Tiny Tim's character, who literally snaps and becomes this clown character called Marvelous Mervo, basically because his family had a farm and they had all these animals, and their farm was taken away, all their animals were taken away and slaughtered, and he was very close to the animals, and he he lost it. And the idea behind this film, there's this sense of isolation and this sense of loss and helplessness that brings on what we're going to see in the film, which is at some points is going to be utterly insanity. There's some hilarious sequences in this film when you're like, I cannot believe they made this choice.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I was a big fan of 6 Feet Under, and the fact that like Peter Krause, this is his first role, is it's a small role, but it's important.
I know him from the Truman Show, so when I saw him pop up in this, I'm like,
Yeah.
very, very interesting. I'm intrigued. Let's go.
It is cool. And the girl, Antonia, was one of those girls that did this movie, and beautiful girl, good actress, and she disappeared after this, and to this day, nobody knows what happened to her.
Really?
So she never made any other films.
I was gonna say, I looked up Letterboxd. This is the only movie she's ever made.
Yeah, and the people that worked with her don't know what happened, where she went, if she changed her name, if she just left the industry. But she's one of the mysteries that people have been trying to figure out for decades.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was kind of interesting in and of itself too.
Yeah. No, this on the just the level side of things. I feel like this is a very straightforward-ish story, but there are some decisions that are made here that will kind of be remembered in my brain for a little bit. Just kind of the way that the main villain is introduced and kind of thrown into the mix, and just kind of the sexual tension that is like there throughout the film from his side of things. And she kind of knows that she's leading him on a little bit, but just doesn't really care because she doesn't see him that way. It's just very, I don't know, it's fascinating, and the route that goes and how explicit things get in this movie just is very uncomfortable to watch, and it's kind of shocking that they go as far as they do in this film with that stuff.
Yeah, I definitely say there's trigger warnings for this film because there's some unusual stuff. It is almost comical in the amount of times that she gets chloroformed.
Yes.
I'm like, how many times can you chloroform one person that like some kind of brain damage or something happening? Because the killer is consistently chloroforming this girl. And at one point, he knocks her out, brings her out to the barn, and has her boyfriend tied up out there. But then he starts to antagonize the boyfriend. But then he hears police sirens, picks her up again, carries her back into the house. It is, and like they try to make it like it's a mystery. Like you're not going to figure out. Trust me, guys. If you see this movie, you will know who the killer is.
Correct. It's pretty easy to find out.
Yeah.
But I mean, then you get like some very psychological, messed up stuff with, like you said, like she was kind of passed out with her fiance hanging there. And that's Peter Krause. He ends up getting his throat slit, capturing the blood from him in a bucket, and then randomly having the main lead, Jill, open up the fridge and just having all of that blood splash out onto her, which was a very cool scene. And you saw how like meticulous he was tying the fish wire to where like when she opens up the door, the blood just doesn't like fall out. It gets thrown back out here, which I thought was a very nice added touch. Just a very memorable scene there.
It is, and it's interesting that the killer is, after all, the son of a farmer, and he does kill them in the way that you would kill like the animals you'd bleed out. And he does that for all his victims actually, which is interesting to see the way that they do it, and they kind of play with Merville. Like, is he complicit? Like, does he have more to do with it? So that was interesting to see them kind of go back and forth on like the creep factor of Merville's character, because he's not that he's horrible. He seems kind of innocent, but there's
like
that
a
one
red
scene where he's
herring
making
character.
coffee.
Like, he wants the spotlight to be shined on him because he is so unlike anything else in this movie that you can't help but focus your attention on him, and that's played to great effect. Even though you kind of know that the villain is somebody else, especially with like the pantyhose over the face. Like, that's a dead giveaway. Even though you can't really tell, you can totally tell.
You can tell.
So I don't know. Just Tiny Tim, I feel like I want to see him in more movies. I know we can't anymore, and he didn't really film too much after this, especially in the horror realm, but he just gives off a very striking performance here that I don't think I'll forget anytime soon. It's just very captivating.
He was an unusual character. I remember
Mhm.
my parents say he got married on the Tonight Show.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, he's like just this, of course, tips with the tulips,
Yep.
is big stuff.
Yep.
And if you watch like those Conjuring films, then of course one of his songs is used through that.
Mhm.
But here he gets to sing a couple songs. He gets the Jerry and Jill song
Yeah.
at the beginning.
Mhm.
Um, and of course the Marvelous Merville song, which gets stuck in your head. Oh
It
my
is.
God.
Yes. I had to play that at the beginning because I don't think it's streaming anywhere, and I don't know where the rights are to that song either, but I want to listen to that all the time because it gets stuck in your head, and it's just it's
It's an
creepy
error.
because it's in a horror movie, but it could also be played in a children's television show. It's just like it's a perfect blend of unease and still kind of nostalgic kids show. I love it.
That's what Tiny Tim is like. His whole thing is like it's childlike but weirdly uneasy at the same time.
Hmm.
So the
Right.
fact that he didn't do more in this genre is a bit of a shame and kind of surprising.
Do you know how
Be-
this movie did when it got released? I did not look at how it was received when it came out.
I would not assume Bill Rebane is a very low budget director,
Hmm.
and aside from maybe something like the giant spider invasion, I wouldn't expect that this would have been one that would have done particularly well. It would have been sold primarily on Tiny Tim's name because he was a bit of a media sensation character back then.
Sure.
That being said, there's probably a reason that this movie wasn't around for such a long time and why Fred Olen Ray was able to get the rights to it, along with a couple of other of Urbain's films. This is one that kind of fell in between the cracks and not a lot of people talked about for the longest time.
Hmm.
But for me, when I was in Ottawa, I had found the DVD, and it was at a time when I didn't have a lot of money on me, so I wasn't getting movies on a regular basis. So this was one that I rewatched fairly regularly,
Sure.
and that song was so addictive.
Hmm.
That one, and if you also put up with Vinegar Syndrome, "Don't Go in the Woods Alone"
Hmm.
has a wonderful song at the end of it too. That'll get stuck in your head.
Okay.
So it's not as good as this movie, but it's fun. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, but there's something about this film here. The girl's nude, like just so you guys know, she's nude like
A
80%.
lot. Yes. Mhm.
Like she's like if they can find a way to like she's got to take a shower. She's just randomly has to take her shirt off. She's gonna get knocked out. The killer is gonna come in and just not gonna hurt her, but he's gonna take her shirt off. And like throughout this film,
Yeah.
there's another film called Luther the Geek with with an actress actually a fairly famous like soap opera actress in it, and she like much like this film. They're like, okay, we're going to take advantage of the fact that we have this beautiful actress in this film, and there's going to be as much nudity as possible. So they did that with this one here as well. So for those that don't like that part of it, like, and he does like knock her out. He is creepy when it comes to that aspect of it.
Very sexual assaulty vibes in this movie. It went further than I thought it would type thing. It doesn't go all the way, but it kind of shows like what he's willing to do, which is it just makes it all the more unsettling, which I think works in this realm to make you not like this guy.
It does, and the thing is, like, he is like I won't say he's like the greatest actor, but I think he's pretty good, and he is fairly likable when we first meet the character. I find that their chemistry. Can I be honest? I think her chemistry with him is a bit better than her chemistry with Peter Krause.
Yeah, it never really worked, the fiance thing. It's just like, yeah, we're kind of meant to say this, but yeah, it did not kind of mesh the way that it should have for sure.
Yeah, and because especially when it's he's such a good actor, Krause is.
Mhm.
But this is an early role from, and he's there. He's literally there to be like the good looking like fiance.
Yeah. Well, when they're going and just like playing "Come Chase Me Down the Stairs" and end up like doing the sexual act on the carpet, it's just like this just it doesn't feel natural. I guess it's happening because it should happen, and it'll give you another creepy instance of the villain to look in and be like, I don't like what I'm seeing, but I kind of like what I'm seeing type stuff.
It's different. I mean, like it's one of those sequences where you're like, okay, these people are filming a scene and they probably haven't talked to each other much before the scene. It seems like that.
Sure.
Whereas with the bad guy, when she's with him, you because there's that awkwardness, because there's that different aspect to it,
Hmm.
it does seem like somebody like, okay, he's probably known her for a while and he's probably carried a torch. So that comes off.
Yeah,
And
there's more layers there than just what's kind of going on with the fiance role of
there
it.
definitely is. Now,
Fiance
to be
role just
fair,
feels
like he
like
gets
it's
more
there
screen time.
because it has to be there. Yeah, I I don't know. I do like the layered stuff when he is in the shower with her. That is just so unsettling, and like carrying her to the couch and doing that whole act that I don't
That
really
was
want
the
to talk about, but that is very just like, oh my
yeah,
god, like this
that was the
this is
part of the
going
movie
further
where
than I
I'm
thought
like,
it would. Yeah. Hmm.
the one part where I'm like, when I'm actually uncomfortable. And it takes a bit for me to feel like uncomfortable in a film. That
Hmm.
sequence just kind of gave me the creep me.
It goes on and on, but I mean, it's to the point to where it's unsettling, but it's there for a purpose to be unsettling, which I don't
Yeah,
mind. Like it's
which
meant
is
for you
good.
to
It
have
should
this
be. So a scene
reaction.
like that
Yes.
should make you like you should not be titillated by watching the sequence. You should be
No.
like it
Yes.
should make you feel like, oh no, this is wrong. And
It's
and
gratuitous for a
does that.
reason, which I'm always there for. If it's just gratuity, just to kind of show nudity, then I'm never really down for that. But it kind of leads to character development that wasn't there before. It shows you that he's willing to go further and further than what you thought this character might actually do.
You can see he's pushing it, and like through like as it's building up from the other times, like this is kind of the combination of all these other scenes that we've seen
Mhm.
previously, and it's kind of the tipping point in the
Yeah.
film before we get to that final like confrontation where things start. And there's a good long confrontation, but once the killer is unmasked, revealed, it
Mhm.
doesn't like it doesn't. It's not like some a lot of movies like this unmask some, he gets killed, or he gets killed, gets unmasked. That's it. No, he gets unmasked, and we get a nice long bit afterwards of them kind of going back and forth
Yeah.
on her trying to get away, the
Yeah.
kind of bargaining, trying to like get him and having like Merville come into it. Just it was
Mhm.
that was brilliantly done.
The cinematography that's in the well, like there's not a lot of ways to shoot that, but they shoot it very well done. Like the angles are from the top, from the bottom, moving along with them. Like it's very convincing and gets you into like the final push of this movie. I thought it was very well done for a very low budget movie.
It is. It's a good. I will say, I listened to the commentary,
Okay, I did not.
and
I'm not a big commentary person. I usually just watch
it's
it and then do special features.
it's okay, but it's not the most engaging commentary.
Okay.
So I'll let you know that ahead of time. It's one of those. Sometimes you get a commentary and you're just like there, and other times you get one and you're doing stuff in the background. This is more of
Mhm.
a background commentary.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of commentaries are just background commentary for me personally. Like if I'm folding clothes, I will fold while I'm listening to this, not paying 1,000%
Yeah.
attention. But yeah, um, going back to the setting of this movie, my grandparents are farmers. My mom is the youngest of 9 children, rural Iowa. Just like very much what the setting of this movie is. Like I feel like over where they live is stuck in that like early seven or late 70s, early 80s time frame. It has not moved. And it I'm glad that there is a horror movie that kind of captures that essence, because I've always felt like there's something eerie about this type of setting. And especially like in our area, just hunting is always also creepy, having like what you just caught hanging and kind of cleaning and skinning and all that stuff. I like the aspect of the throat slitting in this. I think it's very unique and well done in this movie, because that's how everybody dies in this movie, which is kind of
Yeah.
cool. They are all brought back to this barn, throat slit, and that's how you kind of die. And I thought that was also very well done, and it's kind of shocking that that isn't done more in horror movies.
I mean, like Bill Rebane is not a director that I would normally think of as being a thinking director. If you've seen
Okay.
some of his other work, uh, but this one really stands out.
Yeah.
In the way that I feel like there's something personal. Whether like who wrote it, there's something super personal about the way some of that is, and for me, I grew up in this fishing village.
Okay.
So there's a lot of hunting and going on where I like hunting and trapping and snares and all this kind of stuff.
Hmm.
So a lot of this stuff just rang true to me,
Yeah.
to like this small town atmosphere. And I think and they capture it. Like you said, they capture it just brilliantly.
Hmm.
And it's always not easy to do. Sometimes you'll see it on screen and you'll know that, okay, this is being done by somebody that's never been in a small town.
Right.
And you can tell.
Hmm.
Uh, but this one, it gets it right. It gets so much right. And it's a shame, actually, that this one has gotten overlooked by so many people, because I really do think it's it's an interesting, fun little title that probably is a bit better than it's kind of given credit for.
Yeah, when you think of hidden gems in like the horror movie community, I will go to this one now. Like this will be added to that echelon, and it'll be one that I push because sure, it's still very low budget. Sure, the acting is kind of wooden at times, but there's a lot of originality here, and there's a lot of things that just kind of stick out and stick with you. And when you're looking for that type of film in this genre, that's kind of more or less what you're looking for. Is just something that will be memorable, and this definitely has a few of those scenes. And yeah, I'm very happy that you chose this because this is one that's just been sitting in my collection for years, and finally gave me a reason to pull it out and pop it in. And I'm very happy that you decided to talk this movie.
Now you got to get Sudden Fury, and then that'll be that.
Sudden Fury, right? Yeah. I once I hit like the 50 episode echelon, I'm gonna start having guests back and we can talk about different labels and stuff. I would love to pick your brain on something that's not Vinegar Syndrome related, because there's got to be other ones that you like to talk about too, right?
I will definitely be there. Not a problem.
Yeah,
I have so many labels that I collect from.
Yeah, no, me too. And I started off my collecting journey being Steelbook obsessed. That's what my name is everywhere. Nowadays, I'm having more fun collecting for boutique labels than I am even Steelbooks. So it's just, yeah, there's something to collecting for just certain labels, trying to be a completionist on there, and also just deep diving into special features that really a lot of the other mainstream movies studios just aren't putting out.
It's wonderful. I mean, like when I started like collecting, I obviously was VHS, where there was no special features unless you got a Star Maker release or Full Moon.
Yeah, Full Moon at the
But
very end. Mm-hmm.
my special features were like going to the library and reading books on film.
Sure.
That's right. That's why I collect the way I do. That's why a weird facts stick in my head, and I'm always like, physics gone. Like weird movie fact. Yeah, I remember that.
Man, the older I get, the worse my memory gets. So I'm hoping to just like remember half the stuff that I remember now, man. This is why I do a lot of like recording video or doing podcasts and stuff, just so I have something to go back to if my brain can't remember, or logging stuff on Letterboxd. I don't know if you review movies that often, but this app has been a lifesaver for me when it comes to like, I remember liking this movie, but what specifically did I like about this movie? I can go and look at the review later on, and that's been very nice to have.
See, I need to get back to Letterboxd. People keep telling me I got to get into it again, because I recently started to do reviews for like films that are coming at festival films. And the last one I did was, I think you'll actually really like, it's called Falling Stars. And it's a folk horror, but set in a universe where witches are real, but people don't actually kind of see them. They just see like falling stars. And it's fascinating. But to put up to the point too is like, I got to start, I've started to write reviews because, I need to like just get it in my head, especially for newer films, something that I haven't seen a million times. If I only get to watch it twice. Because I normally watch like 3 films for a film like 3 times if I'm going to review it.
Sure.
If I get like a screener, sometimes I just got a couple watches, and I'm like, okay, I'm writing everything down. So I got to get back to Letterboxd because I'm getting that kind of in that mode.
Right. I just got in Trick or Treat from Arrow Video, and I just got in A Nightmare on Elm Street, that 4K. So I know I'm going to do a YouTube review on one of those two, because those seem to be doing pretty well for me, the physical media reviews, which is kind of nice. So I gotta I got to figure out which one I want to do. I kind of am leaning towards Trick or Treat, but I think Nightmare on Elm Street would get better numbers. I'm not sure what route I want to go down just yet.
It's interesting. I mean, like for Nightmare on Elm Street, one of the big things that's going to be for a lot of people is if you collected the previous releases, there's some audio cues that are missing.
Okay.
And all the other versions of Nightmare on Elm Street. So I mean, like if you picked up remember that set that came out years ago,
Yeah.
or even if you got the DVD set or the Blu-ray set, like there's audio cues that are missing that haven't been there since the beginning. And from what I hear, I think most of the cues are back. So
Nice.
that's been a really big thing for audiophiles. Like, and sometimes it's just small things, like could be like a stinger cue, or just like a sound effect. There's a sequence where in Nightmare on Elm Street where she's walking down the road, and Rod kind of after everything's happened, he grabs into the bush, kind of like, and says, "Hey, I've been hiding since last night because what happened to Amanda Weiss's character, Tina." And there's this like singer, like this jump scare type singer that has only been in the original cut of the film, and it's never been on any of the other releases, but I think it's back now. So that's actually really intriguing. It makes me, I wasn't going to buy the 4K first, but I'm really interested because the fact that they've put that much effort into it to get almost all these audio cues, which seems like such a small thing, makes me think they've put a lot of work in this release, that more than I realized.
I'm hoping so, and I feel like that franchise from Warner Brothers has just like not gotten the love that it deserves. Like I feel like when Scream Factory put out that Jason set, like that was a phenomenon. And now in the 4K realm, it seems like Arrow Video is releasing 9 through the reboot, and 1 through 8 are still being released piecemeal by Paramount. So that box set's not going to happen again. I would love to see something for Freddy Krueger, and I just don't know if we're ever going to see it or not, and it bugs me because I am much more a Freddy fan than a Jason fan. I just love the originality of the kills in a Nightmare on Elm Street franchise.
My daughter's the same way. I love Friday. I love them both, but I love Friday 13th. I grew up with that. But my daughter is a massive Nightmare on Elm Street fan. We did almost get, actually, and I'm sure you're probably aware of this, we almost did get a Nightmare on Elm Street box set a few years back, but it got canceled.
Did it really? How long ago was that?
It was, I think it was after. Was it after Friday the 13th?
Okay.
Because I knew
but I don't really know a lot of details about it.
I can't say all I can say is I knew some people that work in features for it.
Yeah.
But they got the company that owns the rights stopped it, unfortunately, which is a shame. I would love to see it. I'm hoping that if they ever come out with that stuff, that any features that were produced before get put in, because I feel like, unfortunately, with a lot of the releases, if it's being done by a company release, you're not getting a lot of new features.
Correct.
And sometimes it's just with those releases either really short or it's archival stuff, which is a bit of a shame. Like I like Sony's releases, but Sony really is not great when it comes to like their normal studio titles, like 5-minute featurettes and 10-minute featurettes. Which is a real shame because there's some stuff that they've put out and I'm like, I just want to know more. And I'm getting it, and I'm just like, there's a 10-minute like blooper reel, and that's about it.
Well, I want to go back to the heyday of like DVD releases where they actually put time into making of documentaries. That was the best. Now you're lucky if you have like a couple of new interviews that are just like whatever they filmed and throwing up the question and then having the person answer it. Like the most lackadaisical way you can put in an interview. That always bugs me. I wish. And I know that some people, I had Justin Beam on my podcast a few episodes back, and he talked about how a lot of these boutique labels like to have just put an interview because it looks like there's more special features crammed in there as opposed to just a documentary, which I totally disagree with. I feel like if there's a documentary in there, it would make me want to pick it up as opposed to seeing 8 new interviews. But
exactly, same here. Like if somebody says there's a feature-length documentary, and that's it, I'm going to pick that up over something that's like maybe 10, like 5-minute like interviews.
Yeah.
I also miss, by the way,
sorry,
menus.
what's that?
I miss menus. DVD menus were amazing. I miss menus.
Yes,
they're so lazy.
Yeah, I have gotten rid of a lot of my DVDs, but I've kept some just because of good memories that I've had going through the menu and looking for Easter eggs and just the amount of love and care that was put into the animations going into the menus. They were great. And like I said, with Blood Harvest, it's very minimalistic. It just shows the intro card kind of slowed down with the Marvelous Merville song in here, but at least it's it's capturing your attention. Nowadays, you pop in a random 4K from a studio, it's just a still. And that bugs me so much. I absolutely hate that. Put no effort into it whatsoever.
Oh no, it's like something that it's like, let's be honest, back in the day, if we had found a movie online and we were on Windows Movie Maker, it looks exactly like that.
Yeah. And like that's when, I don't know if you've seen Furiosa yet, but the 4K that came out for that movie came with an amazing making of documentary that was not advertised at all in there. It looks like it's like 3 separate things, but it's not. It's like a 90-minute making of documentary.
No, I haven't.
It's phenomenal. Highly recommend it.
Because I love the film, so I just haven't picked it up yet.
I love the film too, and it kind of gives you more details on certain aspects of the film and what actors brought what to the role that just makes me love the film even that much more. If you have the 4K and haven't seen that, or even if you don't and are just wanting to pick it up, highly recommend it just for that special feature alone. The movie's great too, but the special feature is like the best I've seen from a major studio, at least this year. There has not been a lot of great special features from major studios this year. That one is a very good one. And I talk about it anytime I can.
It's great when we get to see like some actual quality special features come out there. Boutique labels, by far and large, we expect it from them. So when we see it come out from another company that's not boutique, that it's a wonderful surprise. Right. We sometimes get, well, North America, where I used to live, I always felt that we sometimes got the crappier end of the stick. Like I look at what they put out in the UK and Europe and stuff, and they'd have these amazing editions with books and booklets and posters and cards and all this kind of cool stuff. And we'd get the movie. And sometimes if we were lucky, there'd be an insert on the inside. And we'd get like less features. That's why I started going region free in the first place, was to collect Dario Argento and stuff like that, because I'm a massive Giallo fan.
Yeah, no, I feel like the region free aspect of collecting is a whole different conversation entirely. And I would like to talk about that at some point, especially with the 4K aspect of some things and how it's not needed as much anymore. But there's still some 4K releases that are region locked, which is insane. But
Deer Hunter Factory.
Yeah, I feel like we should talk about that a different day, and I would love to have you back on the podcast sometime soon, Aaron, because I've had a blast talking with you today.
Same here. Thank you so much for having me on, by the way. It's been fantastic, and I'm very honored to be invited on.
Yeah, I like to kind of hint at what I'm going to talk about next episode, and although we don't have a time frame locked in just yet, it's going to be sometime next week. I'm going to be talking about another boutique label that I have not talked about on the podcast yet. It's going to be Severn Films. I'm going to be talking with the Dead Pit guys, Dead Pit Radio.
Oh, wow. I know the Dead Pit guys, actually.
Yeah, it should be a very fun discussion. I want to say we're like 95% sure we're going to talk about Cemetery Man, which I have not seen yet. So very excited to deep dive into that sector. Yeah.
That's going to be interesting.
I'm hoping good interesting and not like...
It is. It's like... Okay. I'm not sure if you read the comic. There's an Italian comic called Dylan Dog. So Cemetery Man and comes from that. Okay. And it is one of those films. It is a unique film.
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
It is gorgeous.
Okay. Yes. Very, very excited to get into that. Hopefully we can figure out some scheduling stuff. Should be next week. But yes, thank you for coming on here today and talking Vinegar Syndrome finally. I don't know why. Like, everybody either wants to talk about Criterion or Arrow Video on this podcast. It seems like every guest I have on. So thank you for talking Vinegar Syndrome. It's been a blast to talk about.
Not a problem. Hopefully I did them okay.
I think you did. I really, yeah, you brought some nice insight. You gave us a whole stack of movies that you think should be talked about more within their catalog. Yes, more than I could have asked for today, for sure. Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to plug before we get out of here?
I have a channel called Color Cinema. I go on there and I talk movies and I do reviews and I sometimes have conversations. Most recently, I had the guy, Thomas Negavan, who did the Caligula, the Ultimate Cut.
Oh, yeah.
And Asme El Madir, who did the movie The Mother of All Lies, which is kind of burning up in the festival circuit right now and just make it to theaters. So if you get a chance, check those out. Above all, check out the Dead Pit video when it comes on next week. That sounds awesome. I'm a massive Severn fan too, so I'm looking forward to that. So thank you so much, man.
I'll talk more about Severn next episode, but it's a label that I have only really started collecting for this year, and I really enjoy my time with it so far. I've enjoyed the labels
box
quite a
sets.
bit.
Those box sets.
They're very, very good. But we'll talk about that next episode. Thank you, Aaron, for coming on today. This has been episode number 40 of Boutique Talk. And until next time, I'll see you.